I'm 87 years old. I don't know how much time I have left, so please listen closely. I've read the Holy Bible from cover to cover every single year of my adult life. I thought I understood the world, but when my heart stopped in my old armchair, Jesus Christ stood before me and showed me what's not in our books. He showed me the true spiritual origin of Islam. And it didn't begin in the 7th century with a man in a cave. It began long before, in a war in the heavens, with a lie crafted to capture the hearts of 1 billion souls. But for you to understand the sheer weight of what he revealed, I need to tell you how I got there. My name is Harold. For 65 years, I worked at the same steel mill right here in Ohio, raised 3 children with my wife Mildred, and served as a deacon. My life has been simple, and my faith even simpler. Trust the word and love your neighbor. I saw Islam on the news and thought I had it all figured out, just another misguided path. I never imagined that God, in his infinite wisdom, would choose a plain man like me to reveal such a profound truth. Before I take you back to that Tuesday afternoon when my world ended, I need to ask you something. If what I've already said has struck a chord in your spirit, please subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you won't miss the rest of this testimony. And I want you to be honest in the comments below. When you think of the Muslim world, what is the first emotion you feel? Fear? Anger? Your honest answer is important because what Jesus showed me next will challenge everything you thought you knew about them and about his own heart. To understand why Jesus showed me this truth about a war in the heavens, you have to understand the man I was. For 65 years, my hands knew the feel of steel at the mill here in Ohio. My life was built on things you could touch. My wife Mildred's hand in mine, the solid wood of the church pew, and the worn leather of my Bible. As a deacon, my faith was just as solid, just as simple. I believed the world was black and white, that the answers were all there in Scripture, and that I had a pretty good handle on them. Because of this, my view of Islam was fixed. I would see the turmoil on the evening news, the anger and chaos in faraway lands, and it just confirmed what I thought I knew. It was a misguided path, a tragic deception I would pray against from the safety of my armchair, always from a distance. I had over 1 billion people filed away in a neat little box in my mind labeled lost. I never felt hatred for them, just a sad, unshakable certainty that I was right and they were tragically wrong. I was sure I had it all figured out, and that's exactly who I was on that final Tuesday afternoon. The sun was streaming through the living room window, and I was settled in my favorite armchair, the one molded to my shape after decades of use. I had my Bible open to the book of Isaiah, a comfort I'd returned to 1,000 times. I felt a deep sense of peace, the quiet contentment of a long life lived. I was just Harold, a simple man from Ohio, secure in his faith and his understanding of the world, just moments away from taking his very last breath. It started as a pressure, right in the center of my chest. It wasn't a sharp pain like a knife, but a deep, crushing weight, as if the very ceiling was coming down on me. I tried to call out for Mildred, my wife, but my throat was closed tight. No sound would come out. The words of Isaiah on the page in my lap began to swim together, the black ink blurring into gray lines. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window seemed to fold in on itself, getting smaller and smaller until it was just a pinprick. And then it winked out completely. There was no sense of falling, no jolt. It was more like a release, a gentle unhitching. Suddenly, I was near the ceiling, looking down. I saw my own body, so pale and still in that old armchair. I saw my wife Mildred burst into the room, her face a mask of pure terror I'd never seen in 60 years of marriage. She was screaming my name, her hands shaking so badly she could barely dial the numbers on the phone. And I felt nothing. No pain, no fear. Just a strange, quiet detachment, as if I were watching a scene from a movie. I watched as the paramedics rushed in. They were all business, their movements sharp and urgent as they pulled my lifeless body from the chair and laid it on the floor. I saw them rip my shirt open and start pressing on my chest, counting out loud. I tried to speak, to tell them, "It's all right, I'm right here." But the words had no voice. They were just thoughts floating in the air. Then I heard one of them, a young man with sweat on his brow, look up at his partner and say the words that confirmed it. "He's gone. There's no pulse." Just as those words hung in the air, I felt something new. It was a pull, not a violent yank, but a gentle, steady drawing, like a river current catching hold of a leaf. The sounds of the room, Mildred's sobbing, the urgent voices of the paramedics began to fade, replaced by a profound silence. The scene of my own living room, the last place I had ever been alive, started to dissolve around me. I was being pulled away from my body, away from my life, and into something else entirely. A journey had just begun. As they fought for my life below, I felt that gentle but irresistible pull. The living room dissolved, and I was moving through a passage of the most brilliant, warm light I had ever conceived. It wasn't blinding. It was alive, like breathing in pure peace. All the aches of my 87 years vanished instantly. The crushing weight on my chest was replaced by a weightlessness I can't describe. For a moment, I saw my mother's face and my old friend Tom from the mill. They weren't ghosts. They were whole, smiling. I wasn't traveling to a place. I was traveling home. The journey ended not with a jolt, but a gentle stop. I was standing in a place with no walls and no ceiling, yet it felt more solid than anything on earth. The ground beneath me was like soft, glowing grass, and the air hummed with a melody that was also a feeling of perfect belonging. It was like the first morning of creation, before anything had gone wrong. There was no sun, but light was everywhere, coming from everything. I knew with a certainty that went deeper than thought that I was no longer in the world of the living. And then I saw him. This was not the pale, blue-eyed Jesus from the paintings in my church. This man had skin the color of burnished bronze, dark, compassionate eyes that held the wisdom of eternity, and the calloused hands of a carpenter. He was unmistakably Jewish, and he radiated a love so pure and powerful that my knees gave way. I didn't fall, I was simply held up by it. Tears streamed down my face, not of sorrow, but of a joy so overwhelming my old body could never have contained it. I knew I was standing before my King. He didn't need to speak for me to know his name, but when he did, the sound was like calm waters and thunder all at once. It filled every part of me. "Harold," he said, and a smile graced his features. It wasn't a smile of greeting, but of ancient recognition, like he'd been waiting for me forever. "I am so glad you are here, but you cannot stay." He looked at me then, his gaze piercing my very soul. "There is something I must show you, something my church has forgotten how to see, something you must take back." He leaned in, his eyes holding a sorrow I couldn't yet understand, and the world of light around us dissolved. I wasn't in that peaceful place anymore. I was standing in a void, watching a council of shadows. In the center stood a being made of pride and blinding false light. I heard his voice, not with my ears, but in my spirit. He said to the others, "We cannot stop their search for God, so we will build them a road to Him, a perfect road filled with devotion and laws, but with one flaw. It will be a road that leads to the Father while denying the Son." I watched, horrified, as they wove together a spiritual system. It was a masterpiece of deception, a near truth so powerful it could capture billions of souls who were genuinely looking for God. My mind reeled. This wasn't history. This was spiritual warfare on a scale I had never imagined. Jesus turned to me then, his voice quiet and filled with pain. He said, This is the spiritual seed of Islam, Harold. It was a strategy of war in the heavens long before it was ever a religion on earth. The words of Paul came to me then, that even Satan masquerades as an angel of light. Then Jesus changed the vision again. He showed me the earth as it is right now. I saw millions, hundreds of millions of people on their knees, their faces pressed to the ground in prayer. The sincerity in their hearts was a physical force. It humbled me to my very core. I felt what Jesus felt for them, not anger, not judgment, but a deep, heartbreaking sorrow. As I tell you this, I have to ask you, are you feeling the weight of this? If this message is reaching your heart, please let me know by liking this video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. They are my creation, Jesus said, his voice breaking the silence. They seek my Father with all their might, but they have been told the door is locked. They have been taught to fear me or to see me as just another prophet when I am the only way home. He looked at me, his gaze piercing my soul. Your church sees a threat. I see a captive family that I long to set free. Tell my people to stop praying against them. Tell them to start praying for them, with my heart of love. My own 60 years of prayers felt so small, so misguided. In that moment, everything I thought I knew about the world was shattered. The simple, black and white faith of Harold from Ohio was gone, replaced by the profound, sorrowful, and loving heart of Christ. I understood that the battle wasn't with people, but with the ancient lie that had captured them. I thought seeing the origin of that lie was the most shocking thing I could ever witness. But that was just the beginning. What Jesus showed me after this, about what is happening on earth right now, was what made me fall to my knees for a second time. As I knelt there, shattered by his love for them, Jesus' voice was gentle but firm. Now look closer, Harold. The vision of millions at prayer zoomed in, focusing on a small, dark bedroom in Iran. I saw a teenage girl asleep, her face troubled, but then a soft light filled her room, and a man in a brilliant white robe stood by her bed. He called her by name, and a smile of pure peace spread across her sleeping face. Jesus turned to me. The media shows you conflict, but the Spirit is orchestrating the greatest harvest the world has ever seen. The scene shifted again. I was in the rubble of a bombed-out city in Syria. A young soldier, his face covered in grime and despair, knelt down and picked up a single torn page from the dirt. It was from the Gospel of John. As he read the words, his hardened expression crumbled, and he began to weep, his shoulders shaking. Then I was in a small hut in Indonesia, where a family huddled around a crackling radio, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope as they listened to a secret broadcast and prayed to accept Christ together. It is happening in the shadows, Jesus said. Millions are coming to me. My heart was pounding with a joy I couldn't contain, a hidden revival, a secret harvest. I thought this was the great revelation, the climax of everything he had to show me. I looked at him, ready to thank him, but the look in his eyes stopped me. It was a look that said the most important part was still to come. This harvest is only the seed, Harold, he said, his voice resonating with prophetic power. Now I will show you the forest it will become. Brace yourself, for what you are about to see will redefine the end of the age for my church. The world around me dissolved and reformed into a vision of the future. I was standing in a city I didn't recognize, but it felt like the heart of the Middle East. There was no war, no conflict. I saw a massive, beautiful church building, and from it came the sound of thousands of voices singing praises, but not in English. It was in Arabic. And standing at the pulpit, preaching with a fire and passion I had never seen, was a man with a long beard and the eyes of a scholar. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that this man had once been a grand imam. I stumbled backward, my mind unable to process the sight. This wasn't a conversion. This was a transformation of the entire landscape. Jesus' voice was filled with a triumphant love. My church in the West has grown comfortable and afraid, he said. The next great awakening, the one that will precede my return, will be fueled by those who were once in the deepest darkness. They will be my new apostles to their own people. I fell to my face then, overwhelmed, tears streaming into the glowing ground. It was too much, too grand, too beautiful to comprehend. He let me weep for a moment, then I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was a touch that carried the weight of creation and the gentleness of a father. He lifted my chin so I was looking into his eternal eyes. Islam will not be defeated from the outside. It will be transformed and redeemed from within, he declared, and his voice was like a trumpet call. Their acceptance will be like life from the dead for the entire world. This is the truth, Harold. This is the hope you must carry back. Tell them what you have seen. He looked at me with an intensity that pierced my very soul. Go back, Harold, he commanded. Tell them what you have seen. Tell my church to open their eyes and see with my heart. But I didn't want to go. A protest rose from the deepest part of my being. Please, Lord, no, I begged him. I'm nobody, just an old man from a steel town. Who would listen to me? Don't make me leave this place. Don't send me back to all that noise and heaviness. I argued, I pleaded, trying to negotiate my way into staying home forever. Jesus didn't scold me for my fear. His gaze held a profound understanding. Harold, he said, and his voice was both a gentle river and an immovable mountain. It is because you are a simple man that they may believe you. It is because you have held my word in your heart your whole life that I can trust you with this. I am not sending you back to a world of pain. I am sending you back with a key to unlock the hearts of my people so they can help me rescue a family that is lost. Before I could form another word, I felt a violent cosmic jolt, like being thrown from a great height and slamming into solid rock. The peace was gone, ripped away in an instant. The light vanished, replaced by a blinding, sterile white. A searing agony exploded in my chest, and I tasted metal and ash in my mouth. The silent, perfect music of eternity was replaced by the frantic shouting of strangers and the high-pitched, relentless beeping of a machine. The weight of my 87 years came crashing back down on me, a crushing, unbearable burden. My eyes flew open, and I gasped a deep, ragged breath that felt like swallowing fire. A young paramedic was leaning over me, his face pale with shock. "We got him back," he yelled. "We got a pulse!" I saw my wife Mildred's face then, a blur of tears and disbelief. I tried to tell her, my voice a weak, rasping whisper. "Mildred, I saw him. He told me to." But she just squeezed my hand, sobbing with relief. "It's okay, Harold," she said. "You're just confused. You're safe now." But I knew the truth. My mission had just begun, and it was already the hardest thing I had ever done. In the weeks that followed, I learned that coming back to life was the easy part. The hard part was trying to deliver the message. When I sat my children down and tried to explain what I had seen, they exchanged worried glances, patting my hand and suggesting I needed more rest. My own pastor, a good man I'd known for 20 years, listened patiently in his office. But when I finished, he just smiled sadly. "Harold," he said, his voice gentle, "the brain does strange things when it's deprived of oxygen. It was just a powerful dream." I was alone, holding a truth as real as the ground beneath my feet, and no one could see it. But the resistance wasn't just from people I loved. Something else, something darker, did not want this story told. The first time I tried to write it all down, a crippling cramp seized my hand, making it impossible to hold the pen. My grandson brought his little tape recorder, but every time I began to speak about Jesus' vision, the machine would hiss with static, drowning out my words. At night, I had heavy, suffocating dreams of shadows whispering that I was a fool, that my testimony would only bring shame. I would wake up with the distinct, chilling feeling that I was not alone in the room. For a time, the fear won. I fell silent, the weight of the visions pressing down on me. I sat in that old armchair, the very place where my heart stopped, and I almost gave up. But then, as clear as if he were standing right there, I remembered his face. I remembered the sorrow in his eyes for his captive family. I remembered his command, "Go back, Harold. Tell them." In that moment, I understood that my comfort, my reputation, even my own family's understanding, meant nothing compared to that sacred mission. The burden of my silence suddenly became heavier than the fear of their disbelief. That's when I realized the truth. All that resistance, from my own church to the shadows in my sleep, wasn't a sign that I should be quiet. It was proof of how desperately this message needed to be heard. If the enemy was fighting this hard to keep this story buried, it must be because the truth it holds has the power to shatter his greatest deception. That is why I am telling you this now, through this channel, leaving a record that cannot be erased by static or doubt. The fight to silence me proves that what Jesus revealed is a key he wants you to have. And so I sit here now, looking at you through this camera, because I believe Jesus sent me back for this very moment. He sent me back for you. He knows the fear and confusion you feel when you look at the world. He showed me the ancient lie that started this spiritual war, but more importantly, he showed me his own heart, broken for the billion souls trapped by it. This isn't just a story I'm telling. This is a message he entrusted to a simple man from Ohio, a message he knew you needed to hear. The most important thing he told me is something you can do right now. He said, "Tell my people to stop praying against them and start praying for them with my heart of love." Your prayers of love, not judgment, are the fuel for that secret harvest I saw. They are what reached the dreaming girl in Iran and the desperate soldier in Syria. You are not a helpless spectator in this spiritual battle. Your compassion, expressed in prayer, is one of God's chosen weapons to rescue his captive family from the darkness. If you look at the news and feel hopeless, I want you to hold on to the final vision he showed me. The future is not one of endless war. It is a future where the church is reborn in the very heart of the Middle East, led by men and women transformed by the power of Christ. This is the great redemptive secret of the end times. A people once lost in darkness will bring forth a light so bright it will shake the world. This is not a human plan. It is God's promise of life from the dead. I am an old man, and my time is short. This is my testimony, and now it is yours to carry. If this message has touched your heart, I ask you to do two things. First, share this video with another believer whose eyes need to be opened. Second, go to the comments and write, "I will pray for the harvest," as a pledge to join this rescue mission. He showed me a lie crafted in the heavens to capture a billion souls. He sent me back to deliver the truth that will set them free.